Hello, everyone. My name is Susana. I work in the European Commission, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the launch event of the project supporting youth employment and investment in skills in developing countries. This project is a collaboration between the European Commission and the International Labour Organization and was created because we care about youth employment. We care through actions. So let's embark on this event with curiosity and a shared determination to turn this project into opportunities. Before we start, I want to remind you that we are recording today's session and will be posting it on Youth First site. The microphones will be muted during the session. There will be time for questions at the end of our presentations, giving everyone a clear moment to step forward, pose questions and share comments. Feel free to raise your hand, ask a question, or type a question in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat through the webinar. Your voices are essential to shape the discussion. Thank you to all for accepting our invitation, and let's get started. We are honored to welcome our first speaker, Laura Corrado. She is the head of the unit responsible for international affairs and the European Training Foundation in the Commission's Directorate General for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. Laura, the floor is yours.
Yes, thanks very much, Susanna, and really good morning to everybody, and welcome. So the ILO colleagues in the first place, and in particular Ms. Dorothea Schmidt-Cloud, Chief of the Employment Policies, Labour Markets and Youth Branch, representatives from the Commission, EU delegations, government representatives from the countries that are involved in this project, civil society, and to everybody that is attending this important event. It's indeed a pleasure for me to address you today at the launch event of this important project on supporting youth employment and investment in skills that covers several countries: Cambodia, Philippines, Rwanda, and Malawi. In DG Employment, we are really, and in the Commission in general, we are very committed to fostering youth employment in the EU and beyond the EU. When we are talking about youth employment and skills, we are not just discussing about getting jobs, trainings, and skills, but also we are addressing hopes, dreams, and opportunities for young people. And of course, the ability for them to get jobs, good quality jobs, impacts very much their life, their aspiration and independence. And of course, it has to do with the future of our societies, that we want to be inclusive, equal, and where people have good working and living conditions. In the EU, we have developed several tools to help young people to really get into job in the member states. One of them is the EU Youth Guarantee that you might heard of, and it's a scheme that ensures that young people receive a good quality offer of employment, continued education, apprenticeship, traineeship within a period of 4 months of becoming unemployed or when they leave education. And this is something that has been quite successful in member states and that we are also implementing now in other countries, for example, in our neighbors, the Western Balkans, that are in the path towards EU accession. And we are also preparing Ukraine, for example, to implement it when there will be reconstruction. So we have also developed a Pact for Skills, which brings together public and private stakeholders, so employers, public bodies, universities, and with the aim of supporting young people to get the right skills and upskilling them so that can get quality jobs and companies can address skill shortages in Europe. And we will develop further tools in the future under the EU skills agenda. We know that youth unemployment, of course, is a challenge for many countries, including for Europe. It's for young people, it's almost 10 percentage point more than the average, 15% versus 6%. But of course, we are aware that these figures are much higher in other countries, including in the countries covered under this project. This is why we are doing this. And of course, we want to address the difficulties that the young people around the world are facing with job markets that are rapidly changing and demand different skills, where there are insufficient number of jobs in the formal economy that give adequate protection to workers. When we have, there are lack of opportunities to gain the skills that are relevant for the needs of the labor market, and we have a lot of mismatching. And also when young people, they find jobs, they might be precarious, insecure with fixed term contracts, low paid and or not in line with their skills. So This is why we think this project is an opportunity to tackle many of these issues that the young people face today and discuss areas for improvement for each country. And we know that when we join efforts, we learn from experience from other countries, we can really reach very good outcomes. And when, of course, the young people, they can learn meaningful skills and secure a good quality job, they really become a force for change, for stronger, more resilient and more prosperous societies. So we really strongly believe that this project will bear fruits, will be leading to concrete actions in the future. And of course, for this, we count on all of you, first of all, with ILO colleagues and the whole ILO team, the EU delegations, government representatives, stakeholders, civil society, employers, and of course, young people. I mean, of course, young people are a bit the central character of this project. So I would really like to sincerely thank the ILO teams and EU delegations and everybody that has made efforts for making this project a reality. I wish you also a nice launch event for today and of course, a good development of the projects in the next 24 months. I think this is a very important project and I think it's very important that we all work so that every young person has a good chance to obtain a decent job and are able to contribute to development of their society. I unfortunately cannot stay for the whole duration, but my colleague Susanna, who has opened this session, will stay on and happy to reply to any questions. I thank you very much for your attention and I really wish you very fruitful discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, for sharing those valuable insights with us. We understand that you need to leave early, and we appreciate the time you have given today. We will continue with the remaining presentations, and we look forward to welcome you back in a future event. I will now hand over the floor to Dorothea Schmidt-Klau, the Chief of the Employment Policies, Labor Markets and Youth Branch in the International Labour Organization. Dorothea, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, colleagues, partners, and friends. It is a real pleasure to join you today for the official launch of yet another important joint initiative between the European Commission and the ILO, two like-minded institutions fighting for the rights of vulnerable people around the world. Let me really thank the European Commission for their continued partnership and all of you for your commitment to advancing decent work opportunities for young women and men across developing countries. I have very good memories of cooperations with the Commission, and why? Because they all have a true impact and they change people's lives. Let me begin by sharing a few figures to frame today's discussion. The global youth unemployment rate has fallen to 13%, the lowest level in 15 years. This is a welcome recovery from the COVID-19 crisis, but it still means that nearly 65 million young people are actively but unsuccessfully looking for work. Yet lower unemployment rates do not mean that the youth employment challenge is solved. Far away from it. In fact, we continue to face three major challenges. The first challenge is the shortage of jobs. While the global unemployment rate is relatively low, in several regions, including Southeast Asia and the Pacific, and in Africa, youth employment rates are actually rising. And in other regions, they are simply too high. To put this into perspective, in the Arab states in North Africa, 1 in 3 economically active young people is unemployed, meaning is looking for work but cannot find work. Now, that's the pure quantity of employment. But there is an additional and maybe even bigger challenge, and that's the lack of decent work. Even when young people find employment, too often it is poor quality, low paid, and insecure. Too often it is in the informal economy. Consider this, in low-income countries, only 1 in 5 young workers aged 25 to 29 holds a regular, secure job. This is compared to 4 in 5 in high-income countries. Let me repeat this because it's just so important. Only 1 in 5 young workers holds a regular, secure job in low-income countries. And the third challenge we see is the persistent inactivity. Progress has been very limited in reducing what we call the so-called need rate. So this is the share of youth not in employment, education, or training. Today, 20% of all young people fall into this need category. And the majority of them, the far majority, are young women. We know that tackling this challenge requires comprehensive solutions, comprehensive policies that look at the same time on the demand side. And what I mean here is creating more and better jobs through enterprise development and sustainable economic transformation. The supply side, which means equipping young people with the right skills for the future of work, and the matching and intermediation mechanisms that connect job seekers and employers effectively. Let me just repeat here. It doesn't help if we skill young people and then afterwards they don't find a job. That just increases anxiety, that increases frustration, and it's just a waste of investment. We need to create the jobs and we need to get the jobs and the people together. And I particularly want to stress 2 institutions, labor market institutions, that are important here. This is social dialogue and public employment services. They play the key role in bringing the 2 sides together, but they also play a key role when it comes to supply side and demand side issues. No single intervention on its own is enough. We need joined up strategies that promote inclusive, productive, and sustainable employment pathways for youth. Behind this background, the core ambition of this project is the establishment of strong regional networks of youth employment experts in Africa and Asia Pacific. These networks will bring together policymakers, researchers, social partners, practitioners, and young people to share knowledge, identify gaps, and co-create solutions. Through peer learning, evidence sharing, and regional cooperation, we expect the network to provide insights and tools that countries can adapt to strengthen their national youth employment ecosystems. Importantly, the knowledge and collaboration fostered by the network will generate clear benefits for partner countries such as Malawi, Rwanda, Cambodia, and the Philippines, all priority countries from an ILO perspective, and all countries where we work in on a daily basis. One of the most pressing gaps is really the lack of user-friendly, action-oriented evidence to inform decision-making. Too often, policymakers do not have access to what works. They just simply don't know what works, or they don't have the capacity to use what works effectively. The network of youth employment experts that we are launching today is designed precisely to bridge this gap through 3 L's: link, learn, and leverage. It will link experts and institutions across countries and regions. It will provide a space to learn, sharing knowledge, experiences, and lessons through peer exchange and evidence curation. And it will leverage this collective expertise to co-create innovative, scalable solutions that can have real impact on youth employment at the country level. By pooling evidence and knowledge and by fostering dialogue between governments, social partners, practitioners, and young people, the network will help transform good ideas into policies and programs that deliver for young people. Today's launch is only the beginning. The success of this initiative depends on the active engagement of all of you: experts, policymakers, social partners, youth representatives, and development partners. At the ILO, we are fully committed to supporting this endeavor. The Employment Policy Department, together with our regional and country offices in Africa and Asia Pacific, will provide technical backstopping and ensure that the networks are anchored in broader ILO strategies and initiatives. In this endeavor, we will also learn from other regions, such as, for example, Europe, and the youth guarantees were mentioned already in this context. I encourage you to use this platform not only to share knowledge, but also to listen, challenge, and collaborate in order to co-create solutions that really matter. Together, we can ensure that the promise of demographic opportunity, which unfortunately has often turned into a threat, is turned into a reality of decent and productive work for the next generation. Thank you very much, and I look forward to our cooperation and discussion.
Thank you, Dorothea, for your inspiring remarks. Now I will move on to the core of today's program, the presentation of our flagship project. Please welcome Chiara Curcio, Technical Officer in the Employment Policy, Job Creation and Livelihoods Department in the International Labour Organization. She's one of the leaders behind the project. Chiara, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Susanna, for this very nice introduction. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're based. I'm very happy and proud today to officially launch this very interesting and exciting initiatives jointly developed by the ILO and funded by the European Union. So I'm very happy that, already my colleague Dorothea and also from the European Commission, Laura, they already share some very interesting insights about the project more or less some insights on how it works. But please allow me to walk you through this project. And the objective is already embedded in its title, right? The idea, and we're here together joining hands and our expertise to support youth employment and investment in skills in developing countries. Our goal is, as already mentioned in these preliminary remarks, is to establish and coordinate a network of youth employment experts in sub-Saharan Africa and the Asia and the Pacific. Dorothea already mentioned before I took the floor that it is very important to bring together expertise from different parties, because most of the time policymakers, they don't have user-friendly access to what works on youth employment. So through the network will be used to share knowledge, to identify knowledge gap, but also, and most importantly, to develop practical solutions for youth employment. The idea is to build regional networks in sub-Saharan Africa and in Asia and the Pacific, and we will start doing so by targeting 4 countries. 2 in sub-Saharan Africa, namely Malawi and Rwanda, and 2 in South Asia, Cambodia and the Philippines. Those are countries where the ILO as active, the ILO and the European Union, they have already ongoing operations, a strong focus on youth employment, and also day-to-day exchanges and collaboration, especially when it comes to youth employment issues. And we are sure that through the pilot of this project, by connecting the expertise coming from those countries, we will already set up an interesting platform of experts to boost and promote decent jobs for youth in those regions. Now, I started by talking a little bit about the what, our objective and our goal, a little bit of the where. Now, let me move on the how. So our strategy. Dorothea already mentioned in her welcoming remarks that we will basically run this project and structure this project around 3 L's. We will run until end of February 2027, and the network will be basically structured around 3 main areas: the link, the learn, and the leverage. So what are we talking about? What are these L's? When it comes to link, this is of course at the core. The nature of the network is to bring expertise together. So set up an active intergenerational community to enhance regional partnership and scale up impactful action on youth employment at the country level. How we want to do that and how we are planning to take action in the coming month. We know that a lot of networks, and we already know that there are already some synergies at country level and regional level. So our first step is to mapping what are the existing and other realities that we can synergize in the coming future. We also establish a dedicated online community for the network to meet, exchange, and also co-create meaningfully. But we will also dedicate in-person time at the country level to really create a space for impactful action and synergies. The second pillar, if I may use this word, is the learn. And it's also the core of this network is to enhance knowledge sharing on youth employment. Any of you, if you're here today, is because you care about youth employment, is because you work on youth employment. So you already gain some level of expertise on the topic. When it comes to the objective of the network, when we look specifically at the countries that we're targeting, the idea is to create a space where our expert can meet and exchange the knowledge that they developed in their countries, and also to learn from peers and also from peer countries working in the same regions. So as ILO and through the network, we will make important pieces of evidence and evidence gap map available for consultations. It's really important is to fill the gap on what works on youth employment, try to understand together what else we can do in this topic. We will organize dedicated events, webinars, discussions, but also meetings with the network members. And we will also organize learning events. The ILO already has an international training center based in Turin, where we organize online, hybrid, and in-person training courses to capacitate our constituents and also practitioners in the field of youth employment. The third pillar is the leverage. So we connect, we learn from each other with the idea to co-create innovative solutions and align resources for youth employment action at country level. The platform itself and the spaces that we'll provide to connect meaningfully would give us the opportunity to design ideation workshop to brainstorm, but also to co-create innovative solutions that can translate into future projects and programs. So this is very important. This is the ambition, and I'm very proud to then basically mention that the main platform where everything that I just described will take place is a platform that you're already very familiar with, because it's hosting this very webinar. Is Youth Foresight, is a broad platform jointly developed by the ILO, UNICEF, and GenU. And we will have within Youth Foresight a specific and dedicated space where the network members can meet, exchange, and co-create together. Through this platform, we will organize, online events, as I said, but we will also make important pieces of knowledge available on youth employment for each of the countries and in the regions, but will also be a place for collaboration opportunities. So with that in mind, I really want to also leave enough time for the next part of this webinar to take place, where we can hear directly the voices of our experts. But before leaving this, I'd like to emphasize the objective of this network, which is, we mentioned the 3L, but we can also say that those objectives are to connect, to share, and co-create for youth employment. So I really encourage you and invite you to scan this QR code and join us today, because we're already late to address the Youth Employment Challenge. So we need your expertise and your engagement. By scanning this QR code, you will express your interest in joining the network, and we really look forward to a successful collaboration. So thank you for your attention. With that in mind, I'd really love to move to the second part of this webinar, where, as I mentioned, I'm very honored and proud to give the opportunity of key experts from the ILO and from the EU delegations in the 4 countries that we target to hear directly from their voices and their country experiences what works in youth employment, but also what are some key insights on youth employment in their countries. The idea is really to kickstart the discussion, to start brainstorming all together. So I invite you to pose questions in the chat box. We will make sure to have an open Q&A session afterwards, but in the meantime, feel free to engage with our speakers and experts. So let me start by giving the floor to my dear colleague, Makiko. She's an employment specialist at the ILO in the regional office for Asia and the Pacific. And I'm very proud to have Makiko today because she has a long experience working in Cambodia. So Maki, I would like to ask you, what are, in your views, the key thematic areas currently shaping the youth employment agenda in Cambodia? And if you can also quickly highlight the challenges and opportunities for young people in entering the labor market. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chiara, for the introduction. I'm employment specialist based in Decent Work Team in Bangkok, ILO. And I've been providing policy support to Cambodia for the last roughly 10 years, so quite a long time. In terms of thematic areas or the, what is shaping the youth employment agenda in Cambodia, I will just provide the perspective from our support, not only ILO, but through joint UN effort with other partners for improving youth employment situation in Cambodia. And these areas focus basically on skills, SMEs, and improving labor market services. So in terms of skills, it's about strengthening the TVET systems, including the things like competency-based learning, training, and also in terms of improving the quality of services, and also improving access to training. And for the employment and working conditions in the SMEs, it is to help develop the capacity of SMEs to provide more decent employment for youth, and also to increase SME productivity through skilling, reskilling, and upskilling of the workers. And related to SME development, the other areas of focus is around enhancing the capacities of business development services and business associations. And in terms of the labor market services, the focus is very much on the package of the employment service, career counseling, and labor market information, but also more broadly beyond young people. It is to support, coordination, implementation, and monitoring of the national employment policy. One phase is coming to an end, the new one is coming up. So I think that these are the kind of main areas of work that has been supported within the Cambodia, but of course in consultation with the national stakeholders. Now, in terms of the emerging challenges, opportunities, just to quickly mention, since Dorothea mentioned about unemployment, unemployment is low. it's quite low. It's, I think, as of 2021, it's estimated to be less than 1% for young people, or around 1%. And if you look at other measures of labor underutilization, it seems to affect the older cohorts, so the people aged 25 years and above, much more, or slightly more. If we look at the need rate, it has been improving over time in the last decade and a half. But if you look at it by education, it seems that it improved for most people, except the rate seems to have worsened for those with less than primary education. So for those people who drop out very early from school. But that said, of course, the dropout rates have been improving for the primary and secondary education over the last exactly like a decade and a half. So it may not be the most alarming issue or concern in terms of absolute numbers. But of course, for those who have dropped out, and in the recent past, particularly during the pandemic shock, there may be, and it is likely to have a long-term impact on their lifetime employment and income earning opportunities. In terms of challenges, I think at the superficial level of observation, career development prospects still seems to remain limited. But of course, that said, average earnings have been improving significantly over time. So according to the data, people who are, let's say, in the cohort of 20 to 24 years old earned around like 300,000 riel in 2010. If they had remained in the labor market for another 10 years, so up to about 2020, 2021, they'll be earning around 1 million riel. So that's more than a threefold increase in at least wage earnings. And this progression has been similar for both men and women, though perhaps more subdued for young women. But the feature of the labor market in Cambodia, at least for what can be seen at a fairly superficial level, is that the labor force participation peaks at around the age of 30 and remains flat for up to about the age of 40 for women and about 50 for men. So even if young cohorts, particularly young women, they may be benefiting from increasing earnings over time, there may be a tendency that they may not stay long enough to gain that earning opportunities. And the other feature is, of course, when young people enter the labor market, their likelihood of engaging in informal employment is higher than among other cohorts. So the kind of U-shape across age groups. And at the moment, it is not very clear whether they are able to successfully transition to more formal type of employment. More analysis is definitely needed. More data is actually needed, but definitely more data and analysis is needed. But of course, it just means that there are people, whoever has engaged initially, the young entrants, the early entrants who engaged initially in informal type of employment, at least some of these proportions will likely remain in informal employment. So I think some kind of policy support may need to be kept in mind of how to address these early entrants or young entrants who initially engaged in more informal type of employment. Now, in terms of structure of employment, what has been emerging opportunities or what has been changing, of course, there has been a large move out of agriculture, and which has been absorbed in other sectors, more notably so in manufacturing and construction. and in the case of Cambodia, much more notably so in construction. There are some other sectors like the trade, wholesale, retail trade, and administrative and support services, but the scale of increase seems to remain somewhat subdued. And of course, like in many other countries, probably there are new forms of work, like through platforms. This could be, of course, both opportunity, but also a challenge. And at the moment, it may affect people mostly in the urban areas. Like in the case of Cambodia, like Phnom Penh and Siem Reap. But anyway, a little is known, and my other colleagues in the ILO, I think they are currently supporting a study to find out more about the situation. Now, more specifically about recent emerging uncertainties, which may create more of a challenge than opportunities. Well, we never know if that can be turned into opportunity. Is about related to the graduation from the LDC status. So it has implications for ODA, loss of preferential access. This may be global, the tariffs set by the US. So that, of course, it is a trading, I wouldn't say trade dependent, but trade does form an important part of the economy, unemployment in Cambodia, so there may be some impact. And very recently,
Thank you,
struggles along the border.
Sorry if I interrupt you. May I ask you to quickly wrap up, because we have already a long lineup of speakers. Thank you so much.
Yes, sorry for taking too much time. So that was actually my last point, that just the emerging uncertainties. So yeah, I will end my intervention here. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you, Makiko. You really highlight so many important issues, not only for Cambodia itself, but also on youth employment in general. I'd like to emphasize that youth themselves, they are already human beings in transition. They are in transition in their life. And when we come to the world of work, they're transitioning from education to employment. So there are many challenges, many opportunities. But thank you, Makiko, for already highlighting some key sectors and key topics where the network should focus on in the coming month. Now we stay in the region, and we move to the Philippines, and I'm very happy to give the floor to Mr. Margarito Rainera, Program Officer at the European Union Delegation for the Philippines. So Margarito, welcome once again. I would be very interested to learn from you what are successful initiatives or gaps that can be highlighted in bridging education and employment. Over to you, Margarito.
Hi. Yeah, good morning there. Good afternoon here. By the way, I'm not an expert, but I work on human rights. Youth employment is a relevant topic in the Philippines, no? Which is, as ILO mentioned, a big deficit on youth employment, but also on decent work. So, however, our delegation does not have a dedicated specific program on youth employment. And in fact, we have no Tibet program here, but we do value youth participation, and we seek to integrate them in all our programs, no, across the board. Just want to highlight some of the initiatives or programs that we are working on. We work closely with civil society, and also we work closely with the authorities. One of the projects that we are supporting right now is which may touch on bridging education and employment, is in the area of fighting child labor. The project is called Strengthening the Community-Based Protection Systems to Eliminate Worst Forms of Child Labor in the Visayas region. This is in the central part of the Philippines. And here we are working with Terdezom, Netherlands. So the aim of the project is to eliminate the worst form of child labor, which and this project uses education as a strategy to support some 12,000 children, includes youth, 15 and above, young people engaged in child labor to transition to a better situation or to a better, decent work. So how do we do this? How did they do this? This transition is by linking beneficiaries with existing government and non-government services to support basic education needs, including school supplies and food items. No? And part of this program is what we call the Enhancing Self and Wage Employment Opportunities, or ESWEO as well. So this within this program, this is a flagship approach for youth economic empowerment and alternative and inclusive education. So here, the youth are engaged and supported through many inputs like technical and vocational skills training, job readiness. They also are assisted to access employers. They are assisted through enterprise development. If there are within the sector young people who will take the enterprise track. And the program also supports young people in crafting, resumes, managing interviews, and preparations for job hunting. So within this project, we work with local governments, of course, in the Visayas region, as mentioned. We work with the Labor Ministry. We engage with around 90 private companies, active in the project areas. And 1,000 children are co-located. So we started this project in January 2023. So that's one initiative. Do I still have time, Chiara? I discuss one more project.
Margarito, maybe we can leave it here, but we will have time for Q&A and also so you may also elaborate on further initiatives later on. Thank you.
Okay, the core message of my sharing is that I think looking at the program that you have, the new ILO program, I guess there will be some commonalities in the agenda, objectives, and even stakeholders, and beneficiaries at country level, meaning here in the Philippines. So I think it will be very good if the ILO project we are launching today will have some synergy with our ongoing initiatives on the ground. So that's my main message.
Thank you very much, Margarito. And your key message is really also at the core of our messaging as well, which is to link and synergize with existing operation, not only between ILO and EU, but you mentioned something very important, which is to link the beneficiaries to the stakeholders, the governments, and whoever is actually working directly for them. So indeed, as ILO, we also work actively on meaningful youth engagement to bring the voices of youth and to work directly with youth when it comes to designing and implementing youth employment programs. So thank you once again for your intervention, and I'm sure there will be time in the Q&A to further develop the conversation and the topic. Now, allow me to move to the other region and let's kickstart the conversation about Sub-Saharan Africa, talking about Rwanda. And I'd like to invite Yushka, Economic Attaché from the European Union Delegation for Rwanda. Welcome. Very happy to have you here with us, Yushka. So talking about Rwanda, I really would love to learn from you what, in your opinion, there are new opportunities, what are new opportunities are emerging for youth in Rwanda, especially when we talk about the digital economy, which is one of the sectors that may attract, many young people in the future. And as you take the floor, you may also wanna draw some lessons from initiatives and programs on digital skills that you are familiar with when we talk about young people. So over to you, Yushka.
Yeah, so I'm probably Yushka, and I'm the private sector development portfolio, so I'm the right person to address this question. Just a quick start. Because digital is a very important place, Rwanda, because it tries to become a regional hub for digital solutions. So, however, Rwanda has a city picture because in capital Kigali, while agriculture is the backbone of employment, so more than 80% of people are working in agriculture. Demographics is also important to mention because it's one of the youngest youth population in the world. Around 70% of population are under 30. However, around 80% of youth are working formally.
Sorry, Yuska, for interrupting you. It seems there is a technical issue with your audio, with your mic. Also, some people, some participants are also posting here the same on the chat. May I suggest maybe if you have a headset or some earphone, maybe you want to try with those? If you need some time, maybe I can, or you can try again. Let's try again. No. May I suggest, do you have maybe earphones or a headset that you can use? Let's see. Maybe if you agree, Yushka, I can give you some time to maybe find a solution. I will maybe move to Malawi so that you can maybe take care of these technical issues. Apologies for this interruption. If that's okay with you, we'll move to Malawi and then we'll get back to you. All right? Thank you for your patience, Yuska. So thank you also participants for your patience. Online meetings, it's always, there are always some technical issues right behind the corners. So thank you again for your patience. But let me now pass the floor to Malawi. So I'd like to start by inviting my colleague Frank Segula. He's a national project officer in Malawi. And Frank, thank you. And first of all, welcome. I'd like to, since we also have a colleague from the European delegation that will talk about Malawi, I'll ask you to briefly, very briefly, highlight what are the main challenges faced by vulnerable youth in accessing decent employment opportunities in Malawi. Over to you, Frank.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kiala, for the opportunity. I should say that my focus of work is on skills and youth employment. And I can say that generally, youth employment is a challenge in Malawi, and data shows that 38% of young women and 23% of young men, they are not in employment, education, or training. That's according to Malawi's 5th Integrated Household Survey, 2019-2020. That shows that there is a challenge. And one of the reasons why we have that challenge is limited labor demand. What I mean is that mainly in the rural areas, there are few or even no companies to provide employment to the youth. So in that way, you can say that there is low demand for workers, especially in the rural areas where most of these vulnerable youth live. And even those few available, they're mainly informal. And because they're in the informal economy, and since we're talking about decent employment, so that informality shows that the kind of work that they provide to the youth, most of them, they are not decent jobs. And this
Frank, I think you are frozen. All right, so maybe let's see if Frank is okay. Sorry, Frank, we lost you for 1 second. Can you maybe briefly wrap up so that we can also give the floor to Donatella and Yuska? Thank you.
Yeah, so I was saying that, there is a challenge for youth to access decent employment because of most of the jobs which are provided, for example, in the rural areas, it's within the informal sector. And because it's informal, for them to access a decent job, it's a challenge. So I was mentioning about data that 8 in 10 employed youth 18 to 24 years, they're employed in low quality jobs and the formal sectors, and 1 in 4 are underemployed. That's according to National Youth Council of Malawi, 2024. So the main challenge there is demand, which is limited, and this is also mainly a challenge because for those who would like maybe to venture into some enterprises, there is a challenge because there are few business development services available, including a lack of capital, and considering high cost of business investments in Malawi. That is why we say that really there are challenges for the vulnerable youth to access a decent job. Because of time, I can end my
Thank you, Frank.
presentation
Thank you,
there.
Frank. It's very important, and it's also very good that you highlight, the specific challenges that vulnerable youth face when it comes to youth employment and creating jobs for those specific groups and subgroups. It's also very important, and we hear you, and there will be definitely a space for our network members to further develop on this. Since we are still in Malawi, Donatella, for the interest of time, apologies for rushing a little bit, but I really love to gather your views. First of all, welcome, Donatella Gobbi. She's program manager at the European delegation in Malawi. And Donatella, would you like maybe to share with the audience if there are any upcoming initiatives on youth employment that in Malawi that the network members should bear in mind and synergize in the coming month? Over to you, Donatella. Thank you.
Yes, in fact, before talking about the forthcoming initiative, I think it's worth to spend some time talking about Zancito Skills for Job program, which is the biggest program on TVET that we have at the time. And that, in fact, is very much connected to the presentation made by Frank. This program is aimed that it is already ongoing since 2023. Has two components. One on supporting TVET and expanding TVET access, but the other component is to promote entrepreneurship and TVET, to promote entrepreneurship and to increase awareness about the possibility to create job involving the private sector. This is very important because it's a twofold approach. We work on one side on skills development provision, but on the other side also on entrepreneurship and job creation. Zancito is important because it's creating awareness and is promoting policy dialogue about TVET. With Zancito, we are, of course, working on reforms of curricula and improvement of governance of TVET. We are also expanding access because we are setting up 4 centers of excellence in strategic sectors, which are agricultural mechanization, maritime transport, renewable energy, and tourism, which are 4 key sectors identified together with the private sector. But especially we are promoting a dialogue with private sector. We are supporting the creation of Sector Skills Council. For the first time, we made a sort of assessment of TVET ecosystem, and we are also promoting skills needs analysis, which is it's completely new. It's new for the country because to now we didn't have a structured approach to that. We also created a technical working group led by TEVETA. TEVETA is the authority for TVET. This means that TEVETA is growing up. We are supporting very much this authority because in the future TEVETA will lead the dialogue between Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor, and the private sector. So I think it's a very strategic and important program. What are you doing? What are we doing with the new program? We will launch in 2027 a new program that will be aimed at expanding and improving secondary education and TVET access, especially for girls, strengthening also social protection programs, because we want to create link between social cash transfer program to secondary education. Why? Because we are aware that most of dropout in TVET and the secondary education are linked to I don't know how to say, economic challenges. So young people have to go, have to work, have to create income. So they drop out from secondary education and from TVET. So we would like to create some link with private, social protection programs to support those young people and keeping them in secondary education and TVET. At the same time, we have to continue working on reforming secondary education and TVET because the current system is not very encouraging, is not supporting youth in staying in school and in TVET. So this will be an innovative program. It's the first time that we try to
Donatella. Sorry if I interrupt you, but it's so interesting. And I can actually invite you, if you have already any links that you could share maybe in the chat box, so that would be great. But I also remind our participants that we will continue the discussion, perhaps not here since running out of time, but definitely in the space that we will set up for this network. But since I'd like to try again, sorry, Donatella, if I ask you maybe your green light, maybe to try to give the floor back to your colleague Yushka. And since we only have 1 minute, actually, we're really running out of time, but it would be very important to get also the perspective from Rwanda before we wrap up. Thank you, Donatella, for your patience. Yushka, back to you. And talking about digital and digital economy, we already started with a challenge. Let's see. I'm afraid we can't hear you, Yushka, for some reason.
I don't know.
Now yes, now we can hear you actually. Well, if you perhaps can, summarize in a minute or two. Apologies for that.
It's a key point for Rwanda because it tries to become a hub for ecosystem and digital innovation. So I just wanted to mention Kigali Innovation City, which is expected $2 billion US to create the digital heart of Africa. So it's a huge project and expected to create 50,000 jobs, of course, mostly for youth. And with ICT exports, 150 million annually. So where Rwanda is I think, trying to achieve. And I just wanted to mention one EU project, which I think it's very unique, and it's called Aguka, and it's a flagship project of the EU in general. So it's implemented by UNDP, and it's the idea to create 100,000 jobs for youth. Of course, digital is one of the key components, and it includes the ecosystem, which includes ideation working with Tony Lumu Foundation. Then second is incubation of a Youth Connect program, which is a Pan-African program launched in Rwanda and covering now 42 countries. And post-incubation of another project, which is called the Hanga Hubs in secondary cities, creating hubs. And the final is working with Northern, the largest entrepreneurship hub in Africa. So this is, I think, two main initiatives which I wanted to emphasize from Rwanda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yuska. I'm very happy that in the end we sort out the technical problem. Thank you for your insights. It's very interesting to talk about the digital economy indeed. So we're running out of time. Apologies for being a few minutes late. Thank you all the speakers for their very interesting insights. Thank you for already providing key insights on what works, the challenges. All of these will be very important and will inform the action of the network members moving forward. I invite you to join, to express your interest in joining the network through the link that was already provided in the chat and that I showed earlier during my presentation. And before wrapping up, before leaving, please make sure to share with us your feedback on the session by quickly responding to the feedback poll that is displayed on your screens. Maybe Joanna? All right, thank you so much. So I'll give you just a minute. As you provide your valuable feedback, I really want to thank you once again for your attention. I will make sure to address any questions that you have posed in the chat and that haven't got an answer yet from my colleagues. We will continue the discussion in Youth for Sight, in our platform, in our community forum, and we look forward to a successful collaboration with you. Thank you. Thank you again for our speakers, and I have a great day, evening ahead.